and St. Martin, it is my pleasure to once again address you in my capacity as President and Delegation Leader of the Parliament of St. Martin at this Interparliamentary Kingdom Consultation, IPKO. We're not complete, our delegation just yet, but the members will be introduced by our committee chair lady in a few seconds or minutes. We are at the beginning of yet another IPKO. Over the past 2 years, due to various circumstances, we met only once annually, hosted by the Netherlands. This year, we returned to our regular rhythm of 2 meetings, and I really wish to thank our Aruban colleagues and the people of Aruba for their warm hospitality in hosting this Caribbean edition. It feels good to be back in the country where I grew up. The very fact that we continue to meet face to face speaks to our resilience and to our commitment to maintaining dialogue within the kingdom. During this IPKO, we will discuss geopolitical and regional security developments, financial relations within the kingdom, cybersecurity, population aging, and climate adaptation. These are not abstract themes. They directly affect the daily lives of the people we all represent. IPKO has, throughout the years, proven to be an important platform for parliamentarians to engage one another on matters that concern all 4 countries. And it is precisely because of my long-standing commitment to this platform that I wish to share a slightly more personal reflection today. More than ever before, I believe we must ask ourselves a fundamental question. What do we, collectively as 4 parliaments, want to achieve through IPKO? And what are our citizens tangibly gaining from our efforts? I am among the few members remaining across the 4 countries who have experienced this consultation under different names for several decades, from the Contact Plum to the POC and now IPKO. I have served before 10-10-10 and after 10-10-10. I have served as minister and as parliamentarian in coalitions and in opposition. But IPKO survived. And that experience gives me not only the perspective, but also the responsibility to raise these questions. Because if we don't raise them now, newer members in IPKO will understandably assume that this is simply how things are done. IPKO will then become a tradition, a routine, rather than a continually evaluated instrument of parliamentary responsibility. We have debated the dispute regulation and the balance within our constitutional arrangements. Governments have changed and commitments have been reaffirmed, but it is no longer sufficient for the dispute regulation to merely survive governments. We need a regulation. For decades, we have spoken about the democratic deficit within the kingdom. We commemorated 50 years of the Charter with a call for renewal. We now mark 70 years, and yet some of these very issues remain substantially unresolved. That is why the agreement reached in June 2024 to establish an expert committee on the democratic deficit was important. That committee now has the task of mapping, analyzing and assessing existing and new proposals, and of examining the scope and impact of provisions in the Kingdom Charter. It is important to note who these members are. For Aruba, Mildred Strengel. For Curaçao, Albrecht Bakhuis. For St. Martin, Rachilda Arduin. And for the Netherlands, Professor Leonard Besseling. They have a job to do between January and October of this year. But members of Parliament, if we are going to make that report, when received, a football again, then we might as well decide now and today that we don't want another report. Because analysis alone is not enough. we must also be prepared to draw conclusions and, where necessary, to act on those. My dear colleagues, IPKO must not become merely a biannual gathering remembered mainly for its collegiality and fellowship. Valuable as those are, we must ask ourselves about impact. The geopolitical landscape is shifting. There is renewed international attention on the kingdom as a state within the global arena, a state responsible to the international community for all the citizens of the kingdom: Groningen, Bandabouw, North, Middle Region, De Bottom, Oranjestad, and Kralendijk. At the same time, questions about equality of rights and equal treatment for all citizens within the kingdom are increasingly prominent. This is not theoretical. It goes to the heart of our responsibility as the highest democratic institutions of our respective countries. Therefore, I encourage political parties, political factions, individual members of parliament across the kingdom to reflect seriously on our collective parliamentary role. Are we fully exercising it? Are we using IPKO as a strategic instrument of democratic oversight and direction within the kingdom? And if reflection leads us to conclude that strengthening or rethinking aspects of our work is necessary, then we must have the courage to act. This is not a call to weaken IPKO. On the contrary, it is a call to keep it meaningful, relevant, and effective. I remain convinced, as I have always been, that there must be a platform for the highest political instruments of the 4 countries of the kingdom, our parliaments. But let us ensure that this instrument, this platform, does not merely exist. Let us ensure that it truly works. As someone who has served this kingdom before and after 10-10-10, I say to you, structures change only when parliaments decide that they must change. So for our democracy, for the kingdom, and above all, for the people who sent us here, I thank you for listening, and I wish all of us a constructive and meaningful IPKO. Thank you.